Hello, welcome back, Delvers, to the Vaults Remastered. Today's episode, we're going to get into Ancestry Feats. So if you've been following along this little mini-series about the Gnishiho that I've put together, this is my homebrewed version, my remastered version of 5th edition svirfneblin, the Deep Gnomes. I am turning them into a Pathfinder 2nd edition svirfneblin, known as Gnishiho. And if you're asking yourself, why don't you just use the Gnishiho that are in the book? Well, there is no Gnishiho in the book. There is no svirfneblin. There's a gnome, and there's an umbral gnome, and they're just not good enough for my vaults game here. I am set in a Darklands analog, a Underdark-esque game world of my own creation. Subterranean, deep in the bowels of the earth, where the PCs are playing delvers attempting to survive their grimdark environment. So I needed this new species, this new ancestry, the Gnishiho. In last episode, I created and went through the process of showcasing the 6 fine specimens you see on your screen right now, the various heritages for my Gnishiho. So if you've not yet checked out those sessions 1A, 1B, 1C, go ahead and save this one to your watch later list. And while you're there, you might as well hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, notifications, all that cool stuff, and then go check out my feed, right? My channel. I've got those other videos sitting there, plus a whole bunch of other ones where I got into some primordial stuff. I got into my whole reason behind ditching 5E and starting 2nd E, and the whole process I've been getting into with homebrewing a bunch of stuff as I retool from one game system to the other. Anyway, what's going on today? Well, if you take a look at our list, we're going to get into a bunch of ancestry feats. We're going to get down and dirty in the raw on these. I am going to just go straight from a blank page with Kathy, my AI muse, ChatGPT, and I'm going to feed her what I have for my Gnishiho, my lore. I'm going to feed her what I have from my 6 different heritages, and I'm going to ask her to take all that information and use it to generate potential feats, ancestry feats, for 1st level, 5th level, 9th level, 13th, and 17th. Plus, cherry on the top, we're going to create heritage feats. I'm going to be putting together 5 heritage feats at each of those levels, 1, 5, 9, 13, and 17, for each of my heritages. So 6 heritages, 5 specific heritage feats. So that's 30. And then you got about another 30 or so sitting here. So you're looking at about 60 total feats I plan on generating for this homebrew ancestry. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Paizo. But hey, this is a homebrew game. I can do as much or as little as I want, right? And I can be very unique, very specific, very setting tailored. Where Paizo, they gotta appease the masses. They need to produce something that everybody can use. So if you're not playing an Underdarky Darklands game, well, it doesn't really help you a bunch of my feats. Anyway, I digress. Let's go ahead and get into what we're gonna do for these feats. So here's where we're at. We're gonna start with 1st level and bang out about a dozen of those. 5th level, we're gonna do, I don't know, maybe like 8 or so, and then maybe a half dozen 9, a handful of 13, and then a couple of 17, and then we're gonna punch up a bunch for the Bleachling, Earthcaller, Gadgeteer, the Gemblade, the Refractionist, and then the Rune Carver. Those are the 6 heritages. So I have several blank pages here. We're going to try to fill them. Now, to do this, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my lore that I have for the Gnishiho, my former svirfneblin, and we're going to pull up Chatty Cathy as well. That is ChatGPT. So let me go ahead and get this open in the background. There we go. And I have my player core book open as well. All right, so let's see what we've got. I'm going to go ahead and fire this up. There we go. There's my ancestry document. Let me shrink this down so you all can see it. All right, so here it is, my Gnishiho ancestry. And this document is sitting at a beefy 14 pages of goodness. Now, that's more than just this lore, but I've got a bunch of stuff. I'm going to take this. I'm going to go ahead and grab it right now. I'm just going to take a swing at this. I'm going to grab all of my lore stuff, which is 4 pages long. And I'm going to pop over here to Kathy, Chatty Kathy. There she is. And we're going to open this so you can see it as well. There we go. And you'll see, look, I got a blank page, so I'm not lying. I don't have this prepped. I don't have this planned at all. I'm gonna do this right here in front of you, in the raw. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I'm gonna prime the pump. I need your help designing Ancestry Feats for a Homebrew Pathfinder 2E Ancestry I recently created. Can you help? Let's see if she wants to help us in the first place. Absolutely, she'd love it. All right, wants more information. See, she wants my info. What up? All right, so she's saying she wants the ancestry description. I got that. The ancestry traits, I've got that. The theme, I got that. Level progression, I'm going to tell her that. Balance considerations, that'll kind of be as we go. All right, so here we go. Here is the lore about the ancestry, known as the Gnishiho. Gnishiho. They are a remastered version of the svirfneblin from D&D. Boom. Oops. Hold on. Let me copy the right thing because it copied not what I wanted. All right. I'm going to pause this real quick so you don't have to watch me fumbling around with my keyboard. Be right back. All right, I've went ahead and pasted the big old chunk in here, and I also revised my initial instructions to her. So here's what I told her. I said, here's the lore. I'm about to paste it, or it's actually pasted below, about the Gnishiho. They're a remastered version of the svirfneblin from D&D, so that kind of gives her a reference point, which you might be able to rely upon to help create some feats. And then again, I've told you all this before. If you've seen any of my videos where I've worked with Kathy live like this, I always tell her to, whoa, wait a second. So I'm telling her, but before you begin creating anything new, confirm you've received this information and are ready to learn the parameters for the feat creation, because I still want to tell her exactly how many feats and what levels, right? She's already mentioned over here is level progression and the balance considerations. Plus, I also want to mention the heritage stuff. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and punch this in. So here's the stuff, the 4 pages of lore that I had come up with the last couple, whatever, week or so. Bang, there it is. Send it. All right, so she's going to start digesting on that. In the meantime, let's go back and take a look at our objective here, because we want to make sure we're telling her the right thing. So she should be acknowledging. I didn't give her the mechanics yet, so I need to give her that. I haven't said anything about the heritages. I'll probably do the heritages separate from the just overall ancestry. So I need to give her the mechanics, and then I need to give her the feat parameters themselves, as in how many I want. So that, I think I have it down here. It's going to be heritage feats. I already got some ideas. I don't want to use those just yet. I already have a couple of ideas of some feats, some generic ones. All right. So I'm going to go and give her the rest of the information. So that is going to be this info here. So here's what I want her to know. I want her to know this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this information. I'm going to copy the mechanics. I'm going to feed her that, and then I'll let her start to come up with some feat ideas. And I'm going to ask her to do a level at a time. Although, as I'm thinking about it, I might, before I even do that, give her the parameters, give her the mechanics of the of the Gnishiho, but before I just have her try to create brand new feats, I'm going to pause her again and feed her the gnome feats from the player core. All right, so that'll be the option. All right, give me a second. Let me pause this. I'll come back and fire all that in there. Okay, I've got my next batch of instructions ready for her. So I say, here are the mechanics in the stat block for the Gnishiho using Pathfinder 2E rules. So I want to start to make sure she understands Pathfinder 2E. Don't forget that. We don't want feats that you're going to create. We don't want the feats we're about to create to duplicate any of these abilities, but they could augment them. So I'm giving her some suggestions. So there's, the mechanics here. You won't want anything to be a duplicate. But if there's some idea of augmenting it, like for instance, add +5 to the speed or something like that, that would be an augment. Whereas just saying, oh, they moved 25 feet, well, they already moved 25 feet. So there are things like that. Just want to clarify what is possible or not. And I'm going to kind of line this up so that everything looks nice and pretty. I don't know if it matters to her, if it gets her lost, but I can't imagine she's able to sort out my lack of commas. So I'm going to kind of put these in line. And then special abilities. Special abilities are these last ones. Special abilities. So I'm going to kind of number this for her. What's actually, that was a language, sorry. Gemlight signaling was a language. I don't think she needs all this detail about the gemlight signaling unless she happens to come up with a feat for it. See, that would be an interesting way to augment, right? You have gemlight signaling as a communication tool to have. What if there was a feat that augmented it? Like you could shoot laser beams or something. That would be pretty cool. Traits, and then these are their traits. That shouldn't matter. 1 second. Sorry to sneeze there. All right, special abilities. You've got low light vision. Get rid of this. She'll know what that is. At least she should. And then I'll put the other two. Crystal focus. That one I'll leave as defined because that is a homebrewed option. Art is into the depths. That also needs to be clarified. All right, so there we go. So these special abilities could be augmented by one of the feats. All right, and then I go on to say that, and here are the parameters for the Gnishiho Ancestry Feats by the number of options and their levels. So I'm telling her you need to make 1st through 17th level, and then this is roughly how many options I'm looking for each thing. But then I give her another pause moment. All right, I tell her, please do not start generating any feats yet. Instead, acknowledge you've reviewed the ancestry mechanics and the parameters for these feats, and you know what ancestry feats are, because that's happened before where you'll go through this whole process and she starts spewing out some stuff that doesn't make any sense. And you're like, what the hell is going on? And then you come to find out she doesn't know what the hell a feat is or whatever it is you're working on. So I should have asked that originally in my first sentence, but just want to make sure here. And then even at this point, I'm not going to have her go free, go crazy yet, because I still want to feed her the already created gnome feats, because the gnome feats, actually, it would help if I had my screen over here. So it would help if I'm going to then feed her the gnome feats so that she's got those to maybe convert from, because I don't think we need to sit here and create all of these brand spanking new feats if we can take a bunch from the player core and convert it. All right, so there it is. That is my entry. Let me go ahead and pump this in. She'll start thinking. By the way, she responded from the previous. I'll kind of go through this real quick with her. So when I had punched in the lore for Gnishiho, she said, thanks for giving me all that detailed background. It gives a rich foundation to design the feats that are thematically appropriate. That's what I wanted, and mechanically interesting. Want that. Given their unique characteristics and cultural traits, we can create feats that highlight their connection to the earth, their mastery of craftsmanship, and their Fey lineage. I agree. Here are the parameters I'll consider. Level appropriateness. She's already got the level range. Mechanical balance, making sure the feats are balanced and in line with existing stuff from Pathfinder. So it sounds like she knows what Pathfinder is. Well, thank you. Thematic consistency. This is definitely important. You want to have feats that are svirfneblin Gnishiho, right? You don't want to have all of a sudden dwarf feats or human feats or something like that. So it definitely should tie into the gems, minerals, craftsmanship, subterranean lifestyle. Diversity of options, yes, that's very important. Providing a range of feats that cater to different play styles, character builds. So you don't want every Gnishiho just to have attacks. You know, all these different feats are just go, 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 shoot, shoot, shoot. With these considerations in mind, she then wanted more information. Initial feat ideas. So this is where the gnome section will be useful. Any specific limitations? So I gave her some limitations as far as how many, the levels. I didn't say anything else, anything specific. That'll probably come out more in the heritage stuff. All right, so then I went ahead and fed in my stuff. She goes on to say, I've reviewed the ancestry mechanics for the Gnishiho, as well as the parameters you've outlined for the creation of the feats. I understand the importance of ensuring that these feats don't duplicate existing special abilities, but rather complement or augment them. The Gnishiho's characteristics, such as their affinity for metal, gems, and clockwork, along with their primal connection to the Earth's Ur energy, provide a rich thematic base for creating unique and engaging feats. I'm also aware of what Ancestry Feats are in the Pathfinder 2E rule system and the role they play in character development and customization. With this understanding, I'm ready to go. Hold your horses. I'm going to tell her this. Great. I would like to start by first providing you the published feats for gnomes, which are the Gnishiho's closest relative. So great. I would like to start by providing you the published feats for gnomes that appear in PF2E rules. I think we can reskin several of these to convert them to usable Gnishiho feats and still match our parameters. What do you think, and are you ready? What do you think? I already know she's gonna think. I can give you the feats one level range at a time to work with. Now let's see what she says here. Let's zoom in a little bit, because I think, here we go. See this a little bit better. Reskinning existing gnome feats to fit Gnishiho is a practical approach. It allows for the creation of feats that are mechanically sound and balanced while still being thematically aligned with the unique characteristics of the Gnishiho. Starting with one level range at a time is an efficient way to proceed. Please provide the published gnome feats at the first level range you'd like to work on, and I'll adapt them to suit the Gnishiho ancestry. Keeping in mind their lore, special abilities, cultural traits, this process will ensure that the new feats feel both familiar to Pathfinder 2E players and distinctively Gnishiho in flavor. Cheers, exactly. All right, let me pause again, and I'm going to go ahead and copy those feats and fire them in. Be right back. All right, I've got the first level feats, and surprisingly, there's only 8 of them in the player core. Can you believe that? 8 feats in the player core at first level? Oh my gosh, mon dieu. All right, I'm going to go ahead and feed these to her. So I said, here are the first level feats for gnomes. Several of them seem animal related, and there's a lot of fey reliance. I don't see either of those options being very thematic for a subterranean stone influenced ancestry, but perhaps you can come up with some ways to rework them to fit a a pet rock, a pet rock, perhaps, for instance. JK. See if she has a sense of humor. Bang! Fire it in there. Let's watch. Thank you for sharing the first level gnome feats. I agree that many of them are deeply tied to the Fey influenced animal interactions, which might not align directly with the Gnishiho's subterranean and stone influenced nature. However, we can certainly adapt these feats to better suit the Gnishiho's unique characteristics. Let's rework these feats, keeping the core mechanics while altering the flavor and lore to fit the Gnishio. Crystal Companion, replacing... Oh no, Paizo, did you hack me? Hold on, let me see if I can regenerate this. Dang, and I was just getting into. I got hacked. Sometimes that happens sometimes, man, and it sucks because just kind of a quick glance, I was like, ooh, there's some interesting stuff there, and then all right, now just kind of my initial impression is I'm seeing what she's doing here. It looks like she's kind of being a little bit too literal. She's taking every single feat and attempting to like reskin it, but more like a renaming, but keeping the exact same stuff. You know what I'm saying? Let me just see something. So instead of animal accomplice, you get mineral companion. It functions as a familiar, perhaps unique abilities like melding into stone. So you get a familiar and it's a stone, right? Earth Whisperer. Instead of animal elocutionist, you have developed a unique ability to communicate with subterranean creatures and elements. This can allow you to converse with earth elementals, so basically giving you the ability to speak the stone language, Petrim, or sense vibrations, providing a bonus to perception checks. You hear sounds and conversations instead of unintelligent noise. Use diplomacy skill with animals. You gain a +1 circumstance to make an impression. All right, that's a little bit variable. Stone savvy. Instead of the Fey Fellowship, your deep connection to the vaults affords you special insight into earth elementals and creatures of stone. You gain bonuses or to interactions with such beings and might have advantage against their abilities or magic. Instead of Fey Fellowship. Your enhanced Fey connection affords you warmer reception first world creatures, gives you the bonus of perception. Whenever you meet a Fey creature, diplomacy checks. All right, so the problem I'm seeing is that the way she's reconsidering these feats, it's pretty much just gnome feats, except they are underground. So it's kind of what I wanted, but it also might be a little bit too literal. You know, like, otherwise, why not just play gnome? If your Gnishiho feats have the same effects as gnome feats, well then I might as well have not done this at all and just said I'm calling my gnomes Gnishiho and just used everything as is. So I don't want that. I want reflavors, yes, but I don't just want a paint job. You know what I'm saying? So that's a potential problem. Gem like magic instead of first world magic, you get a cantrip like glowing stone or shard spray, and first world magic you get a cantrip. Gnome obsession. You might have flighty nature, but when a topic captures your attention, you dive first in. You get a lore feat, assurance feat, yada yada yada. Deep artisan. Your focus on crafting and creation is unparalleled. Gain additional proficiency in specific crafting skill related to minerals, gems, or metals, and the ability to retrain quickly to adapt to new discoveries or projects. Gnishiho weapon innovation instead of gnome weapon familiarity. You're adept at crafting and using weapons integrated with gemstones or clockwork mechanisms. Gain access to a unique set of weapons that reflect this craftsmanship with similar proficiency benefits as a gnome. Now, I actually want to. This is actually going to be interesting because, all right. So first of all, what you see her doing is fine in examples like this because there are a lot of the ancestry feats that have similar pockets or slots of feats. So most ancestry feats, from what I see, have some sort of like weapon combat type of thing, like this one. Now, gnome weapon familiarity would be if you go into the player core, they're going to have a list of weapons and equipment stuff, and any of the weapons that has a gnome trait, which some do, plus the glaive and kukri, you basically are trained in those types of weapons. Now, there is no Gnishiho weapons in the back of the book for obvious reasons. But this creates an opportunity. Because if you notice what she says here, you're adept at using these Gnishiho weapons. And then she gives a clue. And this was, in my game world, there are, one of the things the svirfneblin were known for was, well, they were kind of being forced to do it, but weapons. They were able to make warpstone weapons. And I talked about warpstone with my gem blade heritage in the last video. Warpstone is like radioactive, mineral, ore, uranium. So they're essentially able to make kind of laser beam type of weapons or advanced steam power type weapons using warpstone. So they can, fire high energy projectiles, or they can fire like beams of energy, like warp fire is what it's called, radiation. So I like what I'm seeing here because that jives with what my game world already has. I just didn't have a direct connection between a heritage, an ancestry, and the fact that somebody could make these special kind of weapons. So this could be my connection. This could be if those weapons exist in my game world, which they do. Now this feat would allow you to be able to easily use those weapons without having to do whatever weird training kind of stuff. And maybe you even can craft or fix the weapon. So I like number 6, right? I mean, I can use this for sure. I had to expand it because it's not very detailed. None of these things is mechanically detailed at all. You can't really use many of these as a feat because they lack the mechanics. It's just giving you the overview, the generic. So I would have to take this particular thing and give her the information about the warpstone weapons and then ask her to help me flesh that out. Design a set of 3, 4, 6 weapons that are, warpstone powered. And I'm sure she'll come up with it. I could say, hey, give me a warpstone crossbow. What would we call that? Warpstone, like I had warpfire lance. I already had something like that, warp bolter. Ideas. Illusion of the depths instead of illusion sense. Great. Luminary distraction, replacing razzle dazzle. You've mastered the art of using the reflective properties of gems and minerals to disorient foes. Extend the duration of blinded or dazzled conditions you inflict, possibly with visually stunning display involving light and gem reflections. How does that mesh with razzle dazzle? You spent considerable time practicing the manipulation of light, weaponizing your blade's reflection, blah, blah, blah. So you see, here's an example of something that's lame. So razzle dazzle, the surface gnomes were able to razzle dazzle with their weapons or whatever, and that enhances whatever blinded dazzled. All Kathy's doing is giving me the same exact ability, but this calls it something different. Luminary distraction. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's fine. So I need to go through this list, right? Hey, there's no bad ideas here. So let's go ahead and take these. We're going to copy them. So these are the raw reskins that she's proposing for first level. So what I'm going to do, show you what I'm going to do next. So I take that, and I'm going to come back over to my master list here, my lore page, And so remember, here's an example. I had svirfneblin combat training and svirfneblin magic were a couple of those basic ones. These are going to get overwritten because those are no longer the way things work in the remastered version. So let me ditch these. And let's do this. Pop this down here. Here's my first. So this is going to be Gnome reskins. And we're going to paste what she just proposed right there. So here it is. We've got eight Gnome reskins. Okay. I don't have to use any of them. I could use all of them. I've got them here. Maybes. I can probably fiddle with them a little bit more. So I've got 8. I'm looking for 10 or 12. I know I've got 8 right there. I'm going to get 5. Sorry, I'm going to get 6 from the heritage specific feats. So I'm actually going to be up to 14. Although any one heritage is only going to be able to select from 9. He's got these 8 plus your heritage is 9. So I want to get at minimum 3 more brand new ones, if not a half a dozen. So I think what I'm going to ask her to do is slight change of plan. I'm going to say, very good. I'll look these over and refine the ones that are most interesting. In the meantime, can you propose 6 additional unique, brand new, unique, creative, brand new first level feats that would be appropriate for a Gnishiho? These need to match the power level and should be Pathfinder 2E rules compatible. Any ideas? Right. And can you include the specific mechanics for each? Action, range, damage, bonus, etc. etc. There we go. Let's see what she says to that. So what she did was pretty literal from the gnome stuff I gave her. But again, that's fine, because if you think about it, isn't that what you and I would have done if we weren't using this AI? We would have looked at the gnome stuff and probably tried to reskin it. That's all she did. It was a little bit too literal for what I was hoping for, but some of them had some variations. Some were okay. Let's see what she's saying now. Now here's where things get fun, right? So now she's gone. I asked her to give me brand new stuff that you've never seen before. So let's see what she came up with. Gemlight Beacon, Feat 1, Gnishiho, an action, touch, effect. You touch a gem or a piece of crystal, causing it to emit a bright light in a 20-foot radius, and dim light for an additional 20 feet. This light lasts for 10 minutes. You can dismiss the light as a free action. While active, the gem grants you a +1 circumstance bonus to initiative checks and perception in the illuminated area. So that's kind of like you're carrying, what, a torch? Torches are like a 20-foot, I think. And they last, I think, an hour, though. But kind of like a light spell. So maybe, maybe we'll see. It could be useful. I know one of the heritages already can kind of do something like this. Cast the light spell-ish. So I think it's not the refraction. So I forget, one of my heritages was able to do this. Let me pause real quick and double check. All right, I found it. It wasn't a heritage. It's in the stock ancestry. So the stock ancestry says crystal focus. This is one of your special abilities that all of your kin would have. Like the crystals, minerals that weave through the rocks of the vaults, you seem to be a concentration and focal point for the Earth's your energy. you can cast the light spell once per day. So we've got light spell versus what she's calling is this gem light beacon. You touch the gem, 20-foot radius, 20-foot, blah, 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 10 minutes. So it's kind of almost the same thing. Let me just ask her. Can you contrast the gem light beacon feat with the uh, ability? What the heck's the ability called? With the crystal focus ability. With the crystal focus ability. All Gnishiho get. What is the difference? And is it significant enough to make this feat worthwhile? Let's see if she has to say. What do you have to say for yourself, young lady? Certainly, let's compare the two. There she goes. So the crystal focus is the innate ability. You cast the light spell. Casting light's a 20-20 range once a day. This has to touch something. It's 10-minute duration. And it was what, 10 feet, 10 feet or something like that, or 20 feet, 20 feet. Potentially contrast. Frequency of use. Crystal focus is limited once a day, while gem light beacon does not specify such a limit, potentially allowing for multiple uses a day. Okay, if I leave it that way, because usually I don't let the feats just be unlimited uses. That's a little bit OP. Additional benefits. Gemlight Beacon gives the +1 circumstance bonus. Yes. Gemlight Beacon requires an action to activate, whereas Crystal Focus is the casting of cantrip, which typically also takes an action, so they're same cost. Conclusion: Gemlight Beacon feat offers additional utility beyond what the Crystal Focus ability provides. The key advantages of Gemlight Beacon are the potential for multiple uses per day, which could go away once I clarify the mechanics, and the bonuses to initiative and perception, making it a worthwhile choice for players who want to enhance their character's capabilities in exploration and combat readiness. This feat would be essentially useful in scenarios where lighting conditions are crucial, and the character needs to frequently create sources of light or gain tactical advantages through enhanced perception and readiness. Okay, this is true. Now, the one thing I can see is the light spell. I don't know what is it called in Pathfinder. Is it like in D&D? It's called concentration. What is that called in Pathfinder? All right, it's just looking this up. I think the word I was thinking was not concentrate, but sustain. Concentration and sustain. All right, so anyway, to kind of wrap this up, they're very similar to each other from what I can tell. The player core shows light being something that can last all day. So if you cast light spell, it's like all day long. So that Gnishiho and trait that they get, the crystal focus. Crystal focus, you cast the light spell once a day, but it lasts all day. So that's kind of like almost a moot point. I mean, you can dismiss it, yes. Um, and you can use a sustain action, I think it is, to move it like dancing lights. So that has sort of that advantage. It's like an all day duration. Whereas this thing, this little gem or whatever, this gem lights beacon, you have to touch a stone. It's only going to last 10 minutes. I mean, really, the only really useful benefit I kind of think for it is that you could use it almost, I don't say flashbang, but you could light up something and toss it into a room, for instance, to light up that room as a distraction. And then the only real practical advantage is the bonus here, the initiative and the perception check bonus. Other than that, I have a light spell that I could cast and move that if I needed to, similar to me being able to throw the stone. So yeah, I mean, really, it's the biggest thing here is the bonus, the checks. So, take it or leave it, right? It's not the greatest, but it's potentially usable. So that was the first one. The second one, crystal resonance. One reactions trigger. You take acid, cold, electricity, or fire damage, so some sort of elemental damage. You momentarily channel the energy into nearby crystals or gems on your person, reducing the damage. So this is a damage resistance. Okay. Equal to your level. So damage resistance. Interesting. Okay. Subterranean camouflage. You blend into your stony surroundings. For the next hour, you gain a +2 circumstance bonus to your stealth checks in rocky or underground environments. This bonus increases to +4 if you remain motionless. So you blend in. Next hour, you get a +2 bonus. This is like, what is it? Gnome cunning? Right? Where you get from the original svirfneblin. They got the stealth if they're in rocky terrain. Okay. Good enough. I mean, that's a fairly easy one to pick. Clockwork Crafter. You're adept at creating and repairing small clockwork. You can spend 10 minutes to create a tiny clockwork device that performs simple tasks. Now, okay, see this one? This is very similar to the original concept for the Gadgeteer that I didn't like because it got too much kind of into it being like a familiar. You can spend 10 minutes crafting this thing. It does a simple task. What's the task? That's where the version I had for the Gadgeteer's power was it gave you a +2 bonus on some sort of skill check. These devices function 24 hours before breaking down. You can get a +1 circumstance bonus to crafting checks when working with clockwork mechanisms. So it's kind of loose. Like, what does it really do aside from the +1 bonus to craft checks? Meh. This is very similar to the Gadgeteer's ability. You could just make it a static +1. You don't, why have to build this thing? Maybe you're just handy with tools. Maybe there's I don't know if there's tool sets or whatever. You're proficient in those tinker tools or something. That would make more sense than making it all, clumsy like this. I hate any sort of feat or whatever that is not very descriptive of what it does, because it then just opens it up for cheating or something. Like someone will come up with some way that, oh, I can just make this thing and it's going to do a simple task. That simple task is pour poison into the dragon's mouth and kill it. Yay, we won. Something cheesy like that. So that's where, I'd rather avoid that sort of situation if I can. Let's see what else we got here. We got Gemstone Strike, which is not another, but our first actual attack. 2 actions. You're wielding a weapon melee. You make a strike. You infuse it with the power of the gemstone. If you hit, you deal an additional D4 of the type determined by the gemstone. That's interesting. Fire, cold, etc. I like that. This damage is of the same type as any other damage the weapon deals. Huh? This damage is of the same type as any other weapon the damage deals. Maybe it's on top of? You make a strike with your weapon. If you hit, it deals additional D4 damage of some sort of elemental type. This damage is of the same type as any other damage the weapon deals. That part, I don't understand what that means. I think if you hit with a sword, you do a D8 and then plus D4 of whatever this was. 2 actions. That seems a little bit steep. Only if this thing's scaled. If you're kind of able to heighten these D4s, so every I don't know if every level you get another D4, but maybe every feat level. So 1, 5, 9, you do a D4, 2D4, 3D4, or something like that to make it a little more relevant. Especially if I'm spending 2 actions. So hell, that's pretty expensive. Or if it can transform the entire weapon's damage, that might be worth it. All right, there's something there. I could tweak this around, I think. Deep Earth Sense action. You focus to sense vibrations through the earth. For the next minute, you gain tremor sense with a range of 30 feet. This sense only works in contact with the ground and can detect the presence and location of creatures and objects in contact with the same ground. They'd have to be moving, wouldn't they, if they're tremor sense? Okay, so you get a 30-foot tremor sense for a minute. I think that should probably be limited once a day or something like that, because if you're just constantly doing this, you've got tremor sense all the time. So this definitely need to be limited. I mean, tremor sense is definitely a thing in the vaults. A lot of people will have it. One or two of my ancestries has it as part of their special abilities. So, it's not OP in that sense. Everybody's going to have it. All right, so we've got 6 more that I can use and add to the pile. So I'm going to copy these, take them over to my Word document, and add them to the collection. So if we go to our first level list, we now have what, 14. So these are the 8 gnome reskin ones. We now have 6 unique Gnishiho feats. This is from Kathy's ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and paste those. Okay, so I now have 14 feats I can work with. I think that's plenty, right? I've got 14 first level feats. I was shooting for 10 to 12. I'm going to go through these, pare down, a few that I don't like. I'm gonna have to reskin a few, or flesh them out a little bit better, right? Give mechanics to them. And then by the time I'm done, I should have 10 or 12. Right. And then I'm still going to have another 6 of the specific heritage feats. So by the time I'm done, I'll have easily 16 feats for first level to choose from. Well, not totally choose from. You'll have your 10 or 12 of your core ones that anybody can pick from, and then you'll have 1 additional for your heritage. So as a brand new Gnishiho player, you've got a lot of options you can choose from right away. Maybe too many options, I don't know. But the other thing I can do is some of these might be potentially too strong at first level. I can beef them up just maybe a little bit more and make them a 5th level spell. Like maybe that, mineral companion, right? Or the other one where you're getting the little clockwork thing, the clockwork crafter. Maybe this is going to be a familiar that you can make it more powerful, right? That could be something fun. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video with that because I think, as you can see, there's a lot more thinking to be done. We've spent about 45 minutes, a little bit less, working on these, and we've got a list of about 16, which we're going to pare down. But I still got like a good hour or two's worth of work just to get these first level ones to where they would be ready to be released, right? So you can see how much time this is going to take. It's going to take me a couple hours roughly. Well, it's going to get less and less as I go, but you're looking at, probably what, 10 hours worth of work to do all these plus the heritage feats, 12 hours. So, a full solid day it'll take you going back and forth with Kathy because they really got to work out the mechanics now, right? A lot of the rules need to be looked at because most of the stuff of the proposals were kind of generic. So we need That's why it's nice to have the gnome feats to compare to and kind of use those as your baseline. So we need to make sure there's a nice alignment. We're not too OP or UP. And then we can move some of those up a notch, make them a little more powerful. It does get easier the higher level you go because you have fewer to worry about. Plus, you can do enhanced versions of some of the lower ones or uh, stackable, augmentable types. So you could take one of those lower level feats, and then you make a later feat that has it do something else. So it has that as a prerequisite. So you have to have the mineral companion feat in order to use this other one. Your mineral companion can explode for 8d8 damage, something like that. Okay, just in my headspace a lot right now, so have to excuse me for kind of being distracted. The wheels are turning, the gears are moving. All right, well, anyway, let's wrap it there. Hopefully, again, this was some useful information. You can see the process. As I've mentioned before, the AI is powerful, yes, but it's not going to do all your work for you. You still need to give it a lot of information, which requires direction. And then even when it gives you a good product, it still needs to be refined. So you have to be an editor. So I think the cool thing with what I find the AI is it takes a lot of sort of just the grunt work out of it and allows you to be more of the captain, able to see the big picture and direct the traffic, and then you're the final editor of things. She's gonna produce some content for you, but you're gonna have to go in there and revise. You're gonna have to go in there and do the comparison to what is good, bad, overpowered, underpowered, etc. So you need to use your intuitive skills there because Kathy doesn't have that kind of stuff. Okay, so there you go. I'm gonna wrap it there. I don't know if I'll probably do maybe another video of the heritage feats because those are kind of a different animal. That might be interesting for you to watch or take a look at that because you have your starting heritages and their starting abilities, and then creating a set of 5 feats that get progressively better that tie into that heritage's base ability. That's a fun process. Okay, it's a kind of a different animal. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and like the vid, share it with your buddies out there, subscribe to the channel, the usual stuff. In the meantime, hope you guys have a good night. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.